Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Chops Podcast. I am Jack. No, wait.
No, you're
I'm
Steve.
Steve Peterson. You are?
I'm Jack Hinkle.
And today is a very special day, Jack.
Why is that, Steve?
I'll call you Jack on this episode, not Mr. Hinkle. Okay, because today we're back in B135.
I love this room so much, and we're not going to see it for quite some time in about a couple weeks.
That's right. Because you
School's
know
gonna be
why?
over.
School's out for the summer! Woo! Okay. Right?
Hey!
Okay. So, I brought in my family today. Did you bring anybody in?
This is your family?
Yeah, my family.
Wow,
I have
you
a lot
got
of kids.
extended
No.
family.
We have a live studio audience today. Hello!
Hey.
Okay, we have a studio audience. We're in fifth period class. We're still in prison, right?
This is technically a final period. This
is
is a 70-minute class.
right, 70 minutes.
So this is their final. They don't know it yet, but they're being tested right now.
Oh, they're being tested every day. We have Mr. Hinkle's piano class. Hello, piano class.
Hey, piano, shout out!
And Mr. Peterson's Jazz 1 class. What was that? Ba-da-da-da-da-da. Okay.
Fascinating.
Yeah,
Okay.
Okay.
Yep.
It's like talking to me. Okay.
Shocking.
Okay. So, if you were with us last week at our podcast, we talked about the end of school, and it was actually kind of funny when I went back and listened to it.
Oh, you listened? I listened to it too. Yeah.
It was kind of funny.
It was called
because
May Day.
It was May Day because we said in July, like last year when we did podcasts, we were all like very calm and like cerebral and like very
really
thought out.
looking forward to the
Like,
next
oh,
school year.
and,
That's just going to be great.
teaching practices and holding students close to us. And last week was
Like,
like,
oh my gosh,
oh
oh my
my
God.
gosh. Okay, so we're at the end, and students are ready to get out of school, right? Okay. Is anybody like sad about school being out?
The seniors' hands are going
Okay.
up. They're like,
Okay.
they're getting,
Okay, if you're kind of sad, just go ahead and clap. If
that was
you're-
a sad clap. Yeah,
That's a sad
That's
clap.
a sad
If you're
clap.
excited about school being out, go ahead and clap. If you don't even know when school gets out, clap.
Oh.
Yeah, it's about how school goes, right?
Yeah,
Okay. So we have been ending school for the last 6 months, isn't that right? Doesn't it feel like school hasn't been ending for like 6 months?
I think this week has been 6 months
We've been in it for 2 days, and it's like 6 days already, right?
because time starts to go backwards
I keep on
at this
looking
point
at
in the
my
year.
phone
Yeah,
just to see if it's
147,
okay.
January 3rd. Yeah.
January 3rd. Okay, so we have been on the downslope, but now we are on seniors. This is your final day of public school. Some seniors have already checked out earlier, right? But some, the loyal ones.
I think I lost about 3 seniors from the walk to the piano lab to this room. That was a joke. They all started looking for each other. No, that's not true.
Well, I think all the seniors here showed up for jazz band. Because one I marked absent. He was in the restroom. Bye, Jacob. Oh, sorry. I mean.
Redacted.
Okay.
I'm
Okay,
not editing that.
so we thought it would be fun today to talk about what? It would
He
be
just
fun.
cooked me. He's like,
okay.
you're going to give the topic.
Okay.
Well, we do have a microphone here for the students. So students are able to speak. And we told them this ahead of time, but just for you listeners, if you're curious, we're telling them we're going to do our best to keep faces off the air and keep names off the air. But just give them a chance to kind of speak. So
Wait, are our faces still going to be on air?
is that phone recording? We good? We good? Okay.
Okay, good.
Says we're good.
Thank
Okay.
you, Margaret.
Yep. Nice. Nice.
Thanks, Louise. Okay.
Nice. Okay. So we could go on with the end of the school year. We could go on with a little bit of that and maybe give them a chance to share things that they've noticed over the year. And we could keep it broad
Mm-hmm.
because, I'm spitballing this live as we
Yes,
go.
yes, yeah.
Clearly. And we could give them an opportunity to just kind of share what they have like appreciated from like teaching, right, from the best practices of teaching, and maybe keep it more light rather than
Yeah, but there's some
Throw it
people in
down.
here, they're going to go dark, deep, heavy in here.
oh yeah. But we
it's gonna
can't tell them they can do that because then it'll get worse. But we
Right.
can just
No,
let it go,
but
right?
there's some questions that have been vetted and they wanted
Nice.
to ask about.
Oh,
it.
really?
Yeah.
Okay. So we can do questions or
Comments.
commentary.
Yeah, about
Okay.
about
I like it.
this semester,
Ooh, interesting.
especially the spring. Okay, so at
Okay.
this time, if you feel called, or if you don't, okay, if you would like to start the discussion, now if you don't start the discussion and ask a question, we can get the ball rolling. But
Mhm.
if there's something that you'd like to come out and talk about right away, we can. We can do that.
Mhm.
You want to? Okay. Go over by that person in the purple sweatshirt.
Yeah.
Here's the mic by the piano, buddy.
If you know, you know. Okay. Okay.
Huh? Sure we can. Nobody
This
knows
mic's
that.
Nobody knows that. Okay,
Okay.
caller number
Caller,
7 from
go ahead.
Kansas. Go ahead.
Let's go with pacing of the school year. So I feel like the first semester personally was fast, maybe more activity-wise, but second semester has been very, very slow-paced. Do you guys have any reasons?
Yeah,
to
it's
why you might think
Joe Biden's fault. Yeah, it's I just come on. I could say
Shops
it's
get
Donald.
shut down. Okay.
Okay, no, it's not Joe Biden's fault. It's Barack Obama's. Okay, no, it's Donald Trump's. Okay, so I always feel like in the school year, the fall, it's amazing how quickly you get from Labor Day in August to like Thanksgiving.
Mhm.
I just feel like that race is ahead. November and December are kind of a wash. They're kind of at a standstill. And then January to March is a pretty good clip, but spring break to the end of the year slows down.
That's like, oh, what? Wait, spring break to the end of the year slows down?
The activities speed up, but how time accrues slows down. Like it feels like our last month of school has been going on since March. They're like half of them are yawning, going, yes. Doesn't it feel like that? Like we get to the end of the school year, and especially like the last 2 weeks. I think part of it is, caller number 1, I think part of it has to do with our mental freshness. And I think as we're enjoying things and fresh, time kind of cooks along. And I think as we get more tired and more, I'm going to say oppressed, that sounds bad, but like, or depressed or just kind of overwhelmed, we kind of backpack more things and each step seems heavier and heavier and it takes longer to get through. Because you see the end. This person we're talking to is graduating, I assume. You're going to graduate, right? But you see the light at the end of the tunnel. But you've seen the light, and it feels like it's not getting closer, and you keep on walking and walking and walking. But it's because the end is near. Okay.
I thought like ISMA, like that kind of second week of April, all the way to Jazz Cafe, feels like about 1 week that's taking forever. I don't feel that in like a slow way, but I feel that in just like I'm getting whiplash. Like I feel like I'm on the Top Thrill dragster and just like continually getting stuck at the top and then getting shoved back down and back up and back down. And that's just like all the way until Jazz Cafe.
Okay.
And then Jazz Cafe's done. And
It's
I'm
been
just
a big.
I feel like
You kind
I
of
don't
look
know
like
what's
that. You
going
kind
on.
of
I
look
do
like
look.
that.
I've looked like that for a month,
I know.
and you keep telling me.
I know. It's bad.
Thank you. You told me I had a whoop-a-doodle last week.
You
remember
did.
that? I did this, and you go, "Hey, you got a whoop-a-doodle." I said, "A what?"
Whoop-a-doodle.
What'd you call me?
So, one thing, students, you could tell me, what are you guys talking about? My gosh. So here's one thing that I noticed is maybe students, you could agree with this. Do you ever feel like like you have all these things that you were trying to do the last 6 weeks? Like you had finals and AP tests, and some of you were in athletics, some of you were in student council, you had prom, you had musical contest, and last performances like vocal and orchestra and band and jazz band, all this kind of stuff. But like every Sunday, like every Friday night or Saturday, something else would conclude, right? Choir, done. Jazz band, done. Tennis, done. Like every weekend or every week something got clicked off, right? And AP got done. And then you felt like on that Sunday, you're like, all right. Whew. But then you got to Tuesday the next week, and then you're like, oh, there's still that. Like then you got confronted. So then you kind of grinded through that week, and then you got to the next weekend, and something else was done. And you're like, whew. And then, right, it kept on getting lighter. But then, like on Tuesday, you'd feel like, oh, I still got this to do. I kept on noticing that with myself. Like things would get done, I'd be like, okay, I got this. Then there was like more.
It's just like a game of whack-a-mole.
It was like more creatures were coming out for me.
Yes.
So
And your hammer gets smaller as
Yep.
the year goes on,
Yep,
and
the
there's more
moles get
moles.
bigger.
Yep.
okay,
That's how it goes.
good.
Okay.
You have any response to that, caller? We'll call him Ricky. You got anything, Ricky?
Ricky.
Well,
How'd it go for you? Did you feel like your school year kind of slowed down?
it felt significantly slower towards this month, yes. But, felt a little pace yesterday, but that's because of my own doings. It was just some recovery.
There you go.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah, I would say. How would you guys say? Have you guys needed more coffee more than usual?
Yes,
I'm
Yeah.
trying really hard to stick to my 2 cups a day.
I'm in 3.
3.
I'm in 3.
Don't you normally do 3 before you leave? You do 2 before you leave your house.
Too large.
Can you give like a
Like 2 of these.
2 of these, and
Yeah.
then you do a third one at lunch,
Yes.
and then you
No,
do-
like 2 of these is 1.
so that would be 4 of those is what
Correct.
you drink in the morning.
And then 1 when I get here. 5.
So you drink 5 cups of these.
Yes.
Now you know. Now you know.
Now I know.
It all makes sense.
Okay.
Strong coffee or
Okay.
Real coffee. Okay. Next.
Okay.
It's okay. Okay. Oh my gosh.
Oh.
We'd like to welcome Will Stanton. Will Stanton.
Yes, hello. My name is Esther Sunday.
That was good.
That was good.
So obviously, this is your first year, Mr. Peterson, specifically teaching a lot of new things as you'll be shifting positions next year.
Yes.
So I'd like to address a certain specific question to you. What do you think you've learned, like shifting positions over the past 6 months-ish?
Wow, that was a really insightful question. Thank you.
Thank you, Esther.
That student is referring to the fact that I'm moving positions, like within the school, to a band director, to the director of music, which is which is a more administrative role, almost completely administrative role and less teaching. So I think that what I've learned is that what it's going to take, I'm guessing, in these first few months, that I'm just kind of dabbling with it, not in it, but kind of dabbling as things kind of come across, and we figure it's like more appropriate that I take some things and Mr. Spradling doesn't. So I'm taking all those things that are going towards the next school year, and he's shutting down the school year. So I would liken it to a Google map, and then I feel like my teaching has been like very focused on a street. And now as getting to this role is like I'm getting back from Google Earth or Google Map, and I'm like looking at a bigger picture. So I'm paying attention more to the adults and the students, but kind of the students in a more broad spectrum, and then also adults that I don't work with, mainly parents. So kind of having that learning to use the 180 degrees on my neck instead of just like looking straight ahead, more of a global view. More problem solving, spontaneous problem solving. And it's interesting because I don't really have a lot of experience in that job. So I'm finding out what I don't know, which I think is anybody would do in a new job. So I would use the Google Earth image. I'm going, but thank you for asking. Thank you for your insight. Did you have a follow-up?
No.
Okay, thank you.
On to Raymond Tynert.
what?
Raymond Tynert.
Sure, we'll go with that. Yeah. Well, the thing I was going to say was a follow-up to the one that was like 2 times ago, which was I didn't really feel like Sundays existed.
Why is that?
Sundays were not real. So it was kind of like tunnel vision week by week. And it would be like, okay, we got to go Monday through Friday is school and stuff. And then Saturday there's usually something extra going on. And then Sundays are so empty that they just don't even count. And that was, like,
Because you're
week
in
by week.
recovery mode?
Kind of, yeah. But it's also, yeah, recovery mode. Like the one time I don't have to have my brain engaged. And so therefore I don't remember it. I don't remember Sundays. And it would be like that. Like I wouldn't be able to look at like the whole month at a time. It would be like, what's going on this week? And then Sundays were kind of like the, like, recovery, but also, is there anything I might have missed? And also, what's next?
Right.
So that's,
Mhm.
that's
So,
kinda how it was.
For those of you listening on a device and you're not live, I'm just going to go through some rapid fire questions. Are you a senior?
Yes.
Are you going to college?
Yes.
Have you been in AP?
I have.
Have you been in a vocal performance ensemble?
Yep.
How many?
Yes.
Okay.
1.5.
Have you been in the school musical this spring?
Yep.
Have you been in the school orchestra program?
Yep.
Have you been in the school band program
Yep.
and the school jazz band program?
Yep.
Okay. So that's
2
an
bands.
example of a student that we're talking to that has been heavily involved in school activities. Okay. And kind of what we were alluding to earlier is that some of you went through Monday through Saturday, this whoop, and then you got to Sundays, and it was kind of like this recovery. And I think I always thought the Sundays for me were like the Sunday scaries. After I recovered, like woke up from Jazz Cafe, then I was like, then I got a little nervous or, oh yeah, this is coming up.
Sundays were like, don't talk to me Sundays.
Yeah.
Like, don't stay away.
Right. Unless you're a monk, that's a tough way to live. But, right. Good
Yeah.
thoughts.
No, I know the feeling that you're talking about. Sundays were like reset day and got to do all your chores, all that stuff like in your own life to get ready, and then you just kind of come back and it's rapid fire Monday to Saturday. Wash, rinse, repeat for probably about 6 weeks. Very fun times,
Yeah.
but very hectic and
Right.
rewarding.
Oh yeah, I'm gonna miss it.
You're right. So I think that would be said too, is that most of the people in this class, a lot of you, if not all, I mean, you've been involved in a lot of activities, and most of you have chosen to be in those activities. It's not like you were pushed to be in those or you had to, just like we've chose to be in this job. So that's why we choose not to really complain about it like, this is awful, because it's fun. But it does take its toll on you mentally, spiritually, and physically, right? Then you got to recharge. Thank goodness for summer.
Word.
Somebody just clicked at me. Okay. Your name?
Madison.
Madison what?
Madison Crook.
Madison Crook. Okay, go ahead, Madison.
So my question relates to a lot of what's been said, like how hectic the end of the year is, and like how we're talking about like there's an awards ceremony every other day, and there's always something in the afternoon, and there's always something to plan. So like outside of school, how do you guys manage doing so much stuff at once and having a lot to do? Like I know Mr. P talks about how he goes to bed pretty early, I guess in relation to most of the people here in this room. I
Mhm.
don't know when you do, but how do you manage outside of school all of the stuff that you have to do?
Gosh. You go first.
I am pretty systematic with my
Systematic.
with like my personal organization. And I think, I talk to you guys sometimes about like my meal prep rituals and how that is like really, it's like ritualist. Is he making crazy signs at me? Yep. Dude, wait, what are you talking about? We talk about our meal preps together. That's like our bonding experience. Are you throwing me under the bus right now? He came in today. He came in upstairs with this really nice looking Tupperware of like sausage and like Jamaican rice, right? Stir fry.
Yeah, sausage.
See, you got it
Yeah.
going on. You're not like a PB&J kind of guy.
Yeah, that was leftover. That was leftovers from last night. I did not meal prep this week.
I'm sorry for coming at you, but anyway. So I do
Okay.
a lot of things like chore type of stuff in my personal life, and I'm like pretty systematic about how I do it. Like a lot of you guys know I run, like that's like a hobby for me. And I run like pretty much every day after school as soon as I get back, and then I like make my dinner, I get everything ready for tomorrow, and then I've got like
I
2
did
or
not
3
know
hours
that.
left.
What's that?
I did not know that you ran.
You don't know? Oh yeah. Yeah.
Can
yeah.
you demonstrate? Can you demonstrate for us right now?
Can I run? I'll make a running Instagram and link it to Chops.
Montage.
It's called
What's
called
it-
Jack Runs. Okay.
Run, Jack, run!
Run, Jack, run. So I'm really
Walk, Steve, walk. Sleep, Steve, sleep.
Sleep, Steve, sleep. Coffee, Steve, coffee. Okay. I don't know. Some of you guys may be in the same camp as me, or you may be different, but it's hard for you to enjoy your free time if you know you have X, Y, and Z you have to do. I'm getting some nods back.
Mm-hmm.
I know you for sure. Yeah. So I'm like that. Like I have a hard time just enjoying my free time unless I have all my chores done. And I know some people like are the opposite. Like you want your time for yourself and you push that back. I never was able to function well that way, but I just make sure all my ducks in a row before I can like sit down and like watch TV or just like chill. So that's kind of how I roll.
So he's kind of on his own time, like gives himself permission to relax after all the chores are done, which is very disciplined and very good.
Thank you.
Congratulations. I think mine getting through maintaining balance. Is that what we're talking? Balance?
Yeah.
I do make it a habit to get up extra early. I think a lot of you know this. I get up extra early, so I make sure I'm in the home living space by myself. And quiet time, reading time, journal time, prayer time, coffee time, smoothie time, that is just completely quiet in my house. And that's like very important for me. And to make that a ritual. And I find the days that start like that, I mean, every day starts like that. Like I'm ritualistic about that. Like I don't get up late and that's what I do. I know when I'm getting up and I know my schedule and I make sure I do that. I wish I were better though. Like sometimes the landing at the end of the day, I wish I did a better job of keep moving. Like if I'm going to walk the dog or be more socially active with my family. Cause sometimes when I sit, I don't always get going. I could be down for the count. Okay.
Especially in marching band season. If you sit down, you guys know that.
Yeah.
If you sit down, like when you get home,
It's dangerous.
you're not getting back up. You're not.
Right.
You wake up and it's 3 a.m.
Right.
Yeah.
So I think the morning is more important to me than the afternoon. And then I can kind of see what happens. But sleep, though, is important to me. So I go to bed before 10 o'clock. That's very important to me.
Nice.
It's got to be. It's got to be. Okay?
Yeah.
Cool. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Madison.
Thank you. Okay. What time we get out of class?
40.
40?
35. 35.
See, these classes are getting
35.
longer.
Go ahead.
How do you guys go on about with students that struggle, or either academically, emotionally, or sometimes physically?
How do we what?
Go on about it.
Go on about it?
Like how do we help them? How do we help students that struggle? Maybe they should just answer this one.
I'm just watching this as people
Yeah.
are falling
what is it?
asleep. Okay.
This is different answering in front of students. This is different for me. And not in a bad way.
No, it's bad. No, it is
in
bad.
a horrible way. No.
Okay.
How do you help them? You go.
Really? Okay. I'm going to go. Ready? You ready? How do you help students that are struggling? Is that the basis of the question? How do you help? Okay. Here's the thing that I have to believe. Even though I may talk to a student who may be fretting, exhausted, frantic, anxious, depressed, physically sick, academically sick, right? That I have to believe that even if I don't feel like my words are mattering to that person at that moment, that at some point my words and my actions towards them will. And there'll be some kind of grace with that. But it can be tough if you're working with students that are in a tough situation, and to feel like, well, if you say it's going to be okay, or have you tried this, that knowing that it's not going to get a student out of that pit right then. That's not going to happen. Like, it doesn't happen with adults. If I'm giving counsel to Mr. Hinkle or vice versa, it's not going to go whoop fixed. But I have to have faith that at some point there is going to be some kind of connection, like there is a trust built up and a sincerity built up where the students can feel comfortable in that, even if they feel rotten. So and not to push that, but just to offer that. And then hopefully over weeks and months and years, that trust is there, and maybe those feelings don't seem as lonely in my classroom. I hope and trust in that process.
I think the consistency of kind of chasing after that, whatever
Yes.
that may be, is important. But then on the other side too, like I try to be very consistent in myself and like who I am, and I want to give you, my students, I want to give you the same version of me every day. I don't want you to have to like guess who I'm going to be.
Oh, that's a good one.
Because
That's a good one.
I've had teachers that are different teachers, like in my own experience when I was a student, that are kind of different from day to day, and you kind of have to like guess, like, is this the day I want to talk to this person, or is it this day I want to talk? And I don't want my students to have to deal with that. And if a student is struggling and approaching me for help, whether that's like a personal struggle or a musical struggle, I would like to offer them the same version of me, and I want to make them feel comfortable and know what to expect.
I think
That
that's a
makes
really
sense.
good answer. I think that's a really good answer, and that you would hope. I mean, you appreciate in your friends when people are consistent, you know, and that's comforting. So it's not like woo woo woo, right? I think that's a good answer.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Regan. What? Hi, caller.
Hi. So my question is, when like a student has a panic attack or an anxiety attack in your class, what is your response and like what are your thoughts when that is going on?
Okay, so panic attack, nervousness, anxiety attack. We've talked about that on this podcast,
Mm-hmm.
that there's been a uptick. We've seen more of those in the classroom, right? And I think a lot of us in this room are going, yeah, I've seen that in my classmates or maybe in myself. Go back to your question. Like, what do we think, or like, how do we deal
More of what are your thoughts?
about when that's happening?
Like about, yeah, like if you're thinking about how can I help this person or, yeah, that type of thing.
I think when like if you are with a group of students and you notice that student A, by body language and by facial expression, is in some kind of anxious distress, like you maybe see the precursor, right? And you see the signs, right? And you start to see that kind of manifest itself. So, you know, obviously my hope is that we don't get to that position, or we don't get to that, but that's not always in our control. So sometimes we have full-scale panic attacks, right? We've seen those in our classrooms. And it can be kind of lonely for the students, and also I think it can be lonely for the classmates that are witnessing it. But I think, going back to probably my previous comment, I think like offering all those students grace and acceptance, and at that moment, no judgment, like a safe space. And I think I could say with, you know, we don't know, we don't understand, and I think a lot of us don't know and understand, and why things like that happen sometimes. And I think in that moment, that's not really for us to decide. It's not. We're not there to like cast judgment. And I think most of the time, it's like, what is the best way to help this student get to a safe space? Is it to stay here? Is it to go to the restroom? Is it to go to the nurse? Is it to go outside, take a walk in the hallway, whatever? But to try to find that space that gives a little reprieve, a little breath to the situation, and not have, I think this is a big one, not have your classroom response add to the anxiety. Like have that student feel like guilty or like shunned, right? Because I think there's enough shunning. Personally, if you have a student with tears in your room, I think that's already a pretty humiliating thing. So we don't need to hype on it. Now, I do like to go back after that episode, maybe the next day, maybe 2 days later, check in, kind of process, not in a very formal way because I don't really have those skills, but like to process that and to say, we doing okay? So what about you?
I would say to the student's credit, I don't know if I've ever actually seen a panic attack happen. Usually the students, if they're going to experience that, they kind of feel it coming on, and they usually have like a pretty good skill set of expressing that
Mhm.
and kind of removing themselves from the
Mhm.
situation and getting to a place where they need to be. So to the students' credit, like, I think that's pretty healthy. I think that's a good management system. But circling back to it, I think is helpful. Something that I like to think about is like, are there patterns? Are there certain things that are setting those off? And looking back at the evidence of it, so it's becoming less like emotion based on the experience, but more just factual.
Mhm.
Just like, what are the reasons? When does it happen? Why am I? I'm not to trivialize it, but is it related to sleep? Is it related to social relationships?
Mhm.
And we kind of talked about this last week or
Mhm.
2 weeks ago, just like helping students realize why they're feeling the way they are. You can't control what you feel, but you can kind
Oh,
of
that's
work
right,
to see the patterns and see where you are taken by those feelings, and you can work to find your own pathway within those.
Mhm.
Like a little follow up.
Oh, I love follow-ups.
If like they go to the bathroom for the anxiety attack or whatever, would you prefer if a student goes and checks on them, or like stays in the classroom setting and let them do their thing? Like, how does that make you feel?
Wow.
Probably depends on the student.
On the history of the student,
Yeah.
the history with that of the student, like how much they've been in your class. So maybe you could like respond to this. I think there's always there's a fine line of like what is the best thing to do, right? So is it best for a student to be alone, or is it best for them to have a classmate with them? Meaning, does it kind of add more anxiety if more people are involved in the process? Or is it more anxiety provoking if they're alone in the process? Right?
Yeah.
And again, not to trivialize that, because I've seen both happen. But sometimes there's kind of like misery by association. Some people get very caught up, and then it affects other people. And then some people just do better being alone and saying, I'm going to be gone for a few minutes and I'll be back, and I'm back. So you've probably seen that, right?
Yeah.
Those kind of situations manifest.
Definitely.
Okay. Do you have anything else?
I do not.
Thanks for being brave. Thank you.
Of
Thank
course.
Thank you. Anybody else? The senator from Des Moines, Iowa. Can you give us a bird call?
What bird was that?
White-throated sparrow.
What a talent.
I hope we get a comment on that. They're like, hey, that actually was a white-throated sparrow. They like fact check it.
Sweet Canada,
Cool.
Canada. So obviously there's a generational divide, and we're not here to get into like the whole like personal history of you guys, but I was just curious if like obviously you have to deal with anxiety events and stuff like that. Have either of you ever experienced something similar, like either in youth or like
Anxiety?
like anxiety to the point that you're seeing in other students that you teach?
Do we experience anxiety? Have we experienced anxiety disorders, or been in tense situations similar to what?
Yeah.
Yes.
That
Mhm.
was just one question.
Mhm.
And then follow up that is not related at all. What would you say describes like some qualities that describe the best student leaders that you've had?
Ooh.
Or also even the worst student leaders that you've had?
I've been really like impressed with students that ask really insightful questions. I always feel like those catch me off guard in like a good way. Like I'm not expecting that, and I go like, "How old are you?" Like that. That was cool. So I always see that like there's some level of like intuition or empathy,
Empathy.
just like interpersonal skills that are just kind of they like they make me kind of catch my breath. I'm like, I'm taken aback. That's like one of the first things that come to mind about really good student leaders. Empathy.
And I would say, along with that, student leaders, I would just say leaders in general. I think about adult leaders in our school and just parent leaders in our school system. But people that do a really good job of kind of reading the room and kind of where help is needed and where confidence is needed, and it seems the best leaders, adults and teenagers, but have an ability to go away from themselves to seek out others and not disregard themselves, but not think about themselves so much in that situation, and kind of like going back to the empathy about thinking about others, which is not what we're wired to do. We're wired to think about ourselves. So it is kind of fun and exciting and rewarding when you see students that are really interested in the people around them and show that on a consistent basis. The other thing is, can we have one more bird call before I do this?
What was that bird?
Barred owl. Strix varia. Yeah. And I do have one quick question.
Wait, I had a follow-up,
Oh, you had a follow-up. Okay.
but I really forgot what I was going to say. That's too bad. Oh, I know. One quality I was thinking of, it kind of goes back to what Mr. Hinkle was talking about. Like, see, I think Mr. Hinkle is a leader, and one of the qualities he talked about, like wanting to do as a teacher, was consistency. And people that are leaders do tend to be more consistent, and so I think that's really difficult, especially in the teenage years, because the way we're wired, we're made for more ups and downs. But the student leaders that can approach things more consistently, not just from the highs and the lows, but that going in there, I think that's really attractive skill too.
Were those qualities, obviously you taught Mr. Hinkle, were those qualities that like you noticed in him in high school?
Moment of truth. Oh no. Ooh.
Yeah.
It's a close one. I was gonna have to edit
He
that
was
out.
he was always the last one out of the band room.
Okay.
I can remember going to jazz concerts and like being right there at door 4 with like 3 other kids. Lights would be off. We'd be like locking up. It'd be like snowy night. We'd be out there yucking it up for a half hour, just like, oh yeah, totally. He was always following up on things. Always.
Okay.
Always.
Okay.
Didn't play real well, but yeah, he was a
Yeah.
disc kid.
That's why they made me a drum major. Heyo.
Oops. No.
And not to be a Gabby Gustovich, but
Wait, can you say that again?
a
who's-
Gabby Gustovich.
Who's Gabby Gustovich?
Is that a bird?
It actually is. It's native to Equatorial Guinea. Perfect.
Nice.
This is gonna like blow out your microphone.
I like apples. Okay, go ahead.
Okay. But okay, obviously there's something I learned in marching band is that there's a dichotomy.
Left foot
between-
first.
What?
Sorry.
You want another bird call?
Left foot first.
Left foot first. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a dichotomy between respect that you're given based on your position and like who you are, and respect that you earn. And I was just a little curious if you guys could comment on that, like either how you see it in the workplace or how you see it in students or stuff like that.
I just had a conversation with a student earlier today about a to-be senior, about, kind of going on and crossing the threshold to senior year and kind of what that's like. I think we could help put a lot of young people at ease by telling them that to be the best leader they can, it's good enough being themselves and being very, very authentic. And I think that like teachers I've had that I've liked the most are the most authentic, and they're not trying to be somebody else. They're not trying to be on somebody else's shtick. So I think it's tough because I do think part of our world, our society does say, you should be given respect, you know? And I can play that game. I give respect. But to really give that respect, it has to be earned. I can give it at face value, and I can play the social cue game. I know how to play that game. Right? Exactly. But the people that I really respect, that does take a little bit of time to kind of forge that relationship, and it's not one thing. It's just kind of like a way of life, and it does take a little time on the old chronology.
I would say the best leaders or teachers that I've
Get
had
paid the
or
most. Just kidding. This is getting kind of serious.
Not in this
trying-
state. Okay.
Sorry. Sorry.
If the best teachers and best leaders I've worked with or have had usually seek to serve. And if you're serving other people, whether that's like your class, you're serving your classmates, you're serving your colleagues, the respect is going to come.
Yes.
And if you're ever, I mean, sometimes you have to, make choices that maybe people won't like as a leader. But as long as like you're pretty consistent about being a servant as a leader, I think you're in good shape. I think the respect will come and people will want to work for you and not feel like they have to work for you.
That's good. Thank you. Wait, one more, please. That's a turtle dove. Morning dove.
Pretty much. Morning doves are different. I can't do it, but morning doves go boo hoo. That's why they're called morning doves.
Okay.
Oh, no.
Oh. I never knew that.
I was 55 years old when I figured that out. Really? They're morning
Morning.
doves? Not. Good morning,
That's so
doves.
sad. Okay. Okay. Go ahead, Madison.
Okay, this is Madison Crook again. I don't have a bird call. But my question is, like, when you're in a position of leadership or when you're someone that students look up to, or, like, I guess you're in charge of people, how do you deal with, like, people being, like, intimidated, like, to talk to you or just being around you, I guess? Like, how would you deal with intimidation?
About people being intimidated by us
Yes.
or us being intimidated by other people.
I mean, either. I was thinking people being intimidated of you, but you could answer both, I guess.
I think that's interesting because the only time that I've heard about people being intimidated by me is when they're older, and they said 3 years ago when I met you, I was intimidated by you. But I never knew that at the time, and I wish I did. So maybe that I should just like take that as a tonic for myself and like understand that when you meet a new group of young people, that might be on the radar.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's I think that's interesting to think that, because I don't think about myself as being an intimidating person. I would not put that up in my character traits at all. But
I just took a 0.5 with a cake for a student. I don't know.
for a
it's-
cake,
For a cake. A student has been keeping track of how many times I've run into the fake tree in the piano lab. The answer is 238.
wait, why have you run into
238?
it?
Well, it's where it is. Like, it's right by the it's always in the way.
Yeah, the one with big lights on
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
The one with Christmas lights on
Well,
it.
I'm always trying to get around the pianos, and I just kind of push it out of my way, or I like brush into it on my shoulder. 238. Well, at least 4 of those were ironic, just to keep track of it. So, okay.
Huh.
So I don't think of myself as intimidating either, but you never know.
Have you been intimidated by your teachers? Like aside from
Some
us,
of
you
them.
can
I
talk
mean,
about.
I wouldn't personally say I was intimidated by you guys,
Mhm.
but I'm sure I'm not the only one in this class. It's just like there's some teachers where you just are scared to talk to or
Mhm. Yeah.
nervous, especially to get on their bad side because, some people are nodding their heads.
Well, we were talking about this today.
They're asleep.
We were talking about this today at lunch
What? Were?
about
Oh, we were.
we
Oh,
were talking about
like,
horror stories that our like college directors had like in their ensembles, and
like ways we got wailed on.
yes, because some people love that they're intimidating. Like, some people relish that fact for themselves, and they like you to know that, and they like you to feel intimidated, and they can roll that way.
Yeah.
I don't want to live my life that way. Doesn't sound very fun.
I don't think I have those
I mean,
skills.
I think I appreciate. I understand if a teacher would want to like make sure that the students understand that they're taking it seriously, or for
Yeah.
the teacher. But I kind of like, especially with you guys, and I noticed this is just generally. It's music teachers specifically are
Mhm.
much better at being like more friendly, or more like they're okay with being like personal with you,
Mhm.
and less intimidating in general, I
Mhm.
think. So is that something that you guys like intentionally think about often?
Yes, I do.
And I think that's natural that would happen. Number one, we're teaching music, so there is like an emotional connection to it at some level. And then number two, a lot of us have been in the same classes for 1, 2, 3, 4 years, so there's like a familiar feeling that it kind of allows you to get into a different gear, right?
Yeah. Well, and I think about jazz band. I mean, obviously half of you were in Jazz 1 in here, and like the first time you played an improvised solo in front of your classmates and in front of your teacher, if Mr. Peterson was like, okay, you're going to play a solo, you're going to use these notes, and if you mess up, you are never going to solo again. Like, how would that go for anybody, But if you're playing a solo, like, you want to be empowered.
Right.
You don't want to be
Encouraged.
oppressed. Yeah. So giving that is like, I mean, you can't be musical if you don't have that sort of like freedom.
Freedom.
Yeah.
Freedom.
Preach it.
Sorry.
Preach it.
Okay, thanks.
Thanks, Robert.
Okay. Ooh.
Hello, caller.
Hello. Okay, I'll make this quick because I know we don't have a ton
Yeah,
of
this
time.
will probably be the final call.
Okay.
What? Wait,
so-
we have 4 minutes.
4 minutes.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, so I know you guys like obviously get to have students all year long for the most part. Do you ever notice like as it gets to the end of the year or towards more stressful times how like their attitudes or energy will like change throughout the year?
Yes.
Yes.
Can you like
Next
give
question.
us an example of
Is that
like,
true of teachers too?
like
Possibly.
how-
Okay.
how their like attitudes will change?
I think knowing the schedule that some students keep, like for example, during ISMA season, there were some students that I taught on Monday night they had rehearsal 6:30 to 8 or 6:30 to 9. Tuesday night they had 6:30 to 9. Wednesday night they had 6:30 to 9. And they were going. And I had to be aware of the energy changes from time to time. Okay. This group here, most of them are still here. Jazz 1 had an incredibly high motor, but at times the motor ran a little bit lower, but I had to be a little bit aware of that and saying, kind of allow that to happen. Not because I said it, but just we had to run in different gears sometimes because the energy couldn't sustain at 10,000 RPM. So we just can't do that. So had to kind of go down to a lower gear.
Yeah. I just immediately think back to like the trajectory of marching band. Like July is here, like people are feeling good and they're fresh, and then you kind of get through with the school year and you're going, and then suddenly in October everyone's like holding on by a single thread.
Right.
Collectively. And it is. I mean, it's just hard. It's hard. And for many of the students, they're experiencing all of these things for the first time. Mr. Peterson and I have experienced many marching band seasons between the two of us, and we know how it feels,
Mhm.
and we know how to kind of keep ourselves afloat and level. But if you're a freshman doing it for the first time, you have no idea. And that's hard to figure out, but we want to help you figure that out with us, kind of make it collective.
Thank you, caller.
Thank you.
Okay, so we're at the end of our episode. Everybody still out there?
Yeah, perfect.
We'd like to thank Chops Nation for being there.
Yes.
Feel free to follow us on Chops_podcast on TikTok and Instagram and YouTube. And we'll be here tomorrow doing one more live podcast.
Whoop whoop.
Right?
Yeah,
So
that's
for
true.
Steve Peterson,
And Jack Hinkle.
we're out of here.